Apparently, you have to stop the video and then restart it. Okay, anywho. We are going to prop you up a little bit like so. Nice. And, but before that, we're working on sheet 5. So the game is this. Okay, we're going to inspect and clean the connecting rod, bearing surface, and the crankshaft journal as needed. Well, I've already done that. Okay, we're going to talk about that in a jiffy here. And then we're going to stick a plastic gauge from the instructor. So I'm going to show you that. That's me. About a ½ inch long. I've already cut that off. So I'm not sure if this is going to show up before the 318 video or the 318 video is going to show up before this one. Regardless, the plastic gauge, we'll talk about it in a moment. And then we're going to use the plastic gauge method at first, and then we're going to use the micrometer method second. If you were paying attention the other day, which some of you do and some of you don't, I know. That's how these things go. Today we talked about, hey, we can do things with our we can do things with the micrometers, and yet the micrometers are sometimes hard for some of us to read. Even for me, I'm not great at them. I'm okay, but I'm not great at them. And so as a result, what I find is that my readings that I get are a little iffy sometimes. Yet, and then the kids, of course, they're really iffy. And yet, if I were instead to use a piece of plastic gauge, man, it's not very difficult. So the game is this, and I'm going to draw a picture for you before we begin. So what I'm going to do is here's my crankshaft, and I'm going to view it from the side, if you will, like so. What I'm going to do is I'm going to put a piece of plastic on there. It's called plastic gauge. It's like a thread. We'll show you a picture of it here in a second. And it has a certain diameter to it. Then we're going to put the connecting rod over the top of that, like so. And we'll tighten up the bolts on both sides and we'll torque them down. And what that'll do is it'll squish this little piece of plastic. And it'll get fatter. And then on the side of the wrapper, which I'll show you in a jiffy, what we're going to end up doing is comparing the width of it after we've squished the bejesus out of it. Okay? So here you have, focus on it. There you go. And so you can see the thin white one on the far left says 0.003 or 0.003. If your piece of plastic gauge is that fat after you squished it, that means you have 0.003 of an inch of gap. The big fat green one there is 1/1000. Well, now why would it be fatter? Well, because there's less clearance and you've mashed the bejesus out of this little green piece of string, and it has gotten, of course, fatter. Now I'm going to open this up. The plastic gauge is actually inside of this wrapper. And it is, as I say, just a little piece of green plastic thread, in essence. Okay? Now, they make several different sizes of these plastic gauges. So this one happens to go anywhere from 1 to 0.003 of an inch of clearance. If you need bigger than that, they make, I think it's a 4 to 9. And then they make another one. And then, so of course, 4 to 9, you're like, well, does it have to be a fatter piece of plastic? Indeed, sir. Well done, sir, ma'am. Yes, of course. Why? Well, it has to be fatter and bigger because, obviously, it has to take up more of a clearance. Okay? So what we're going to do is we're going to lay that in there like so. We're going to take our piece of plastic gauge, and we're going to lay it on the crankshaft like so. Oh, fart. Stuck to my fingers. Oh, dang it. I gotta get my glasses on. I can't see what I'm doing without them. One moment, please. Stop. We back? Are we recording? By God, we are. All right, so here we go. We are going to put the piece of plastic gauge on the crankshaft running this way with the crankshaft, okay? We're going to take our connecting rod, and remember, we've marked it with paint. Paint over here, number one. Also, number two, see how down here you've got this grooved piece? Now this side is just on the inside. you can see that mark over here the same way, and line them up. And then we're going to torque these guys down. Okay, we're going to torque them down. We're going to take them back out, and then we're going to measure the width of how far out we've smooshed the plastic gauge. So to find out what we're going to torque them to, we're going to go on the shop manual. And so if you look on here, well, actually it tells you where to look on this sheet, Mr. Groom, you ding dong. Hey, look right here. Section 9 in the Briggs manual. Section 9 right here, baby. There we go. So if you scroll down a ways, I think toward the end of this, there's a table. Oops, did I overshoot it? No. Oh no, I went too far. Darn it. Just quick, trying to be fancy, Jay, and just scroll down to table 1. Oh, there you go. There we go. We're getting there. Oh, here we go. So connecting rod screw torques 100 inch-pounds. 100 inch-pounds. So I will use this fella first. Okay, maybe I will. So first of all, this one only goes down to. It doesn't go down quite far enough. I'll get a different one real quick. Sorry, one moment. Hate that. For real professional, Jay. 100 inch-pounds. Now remember, we talked about torque before. We talked about torque is force times a lever arm. Okay? So what we're saying is this is equivalent to putting 100 pounds on a 1 inch long lever. You're like, that'd be really weird to pull on a 1 inch long lever. Correct. Well, could I convert that to foot-pounds? You certainly can. So a foot is 12 times longer, you see, than an inch, yes? So instead of pulling with a force of 100 pounds on a foot, in essence, you'd be pulling with a force of about 8 1/3 pounds on a foot, which is 12 times smaller than 100, because your lever is 12 times bigger than it was before, okay? So I'm gonna hold it steady. Beep. Beep. Now I'm going to back them off. This particular style of torque wrench does have a reverse. A lot of the other style, the old click types, didn't have a reverse, and you're going to want to obviously change out to use a ratchet at that point. But because this one does allow for backing it out, I'm going to go ahead and use it. Whee! Okay. Just be aware that you'll run into sometimes that don't have that feature. Oh, come on, get out of there. Come on. Come now. Off comes the cap. And then I'll bring this over and focus on it so you can see it plainly. As you can see, smooshed right there on the front, right there, focus, you see it, is what that little piece of green plastic has turned into because we smooshed it down. Now, what we're going to try to do, we're going to attempt to line it up with one of these widths that are on here. Okay? So, does it look to be as wide as this big fat green one? No, Mr. Grimm, that's ridiculous. What about this white one? Not quite. What about this smaller green one? Yeah, I'd buy that for a nickel, sure. Okay, cool. Okay? My freaking laptop's hotter than a pistol. I just burned my hand on it. So, that smaller one there is 2/1000ths of an inch of clearance is what we're saying. 2/1000ths of an inch of clearance. As you can see on the picture there. Focus. Well, maybe you can focus. I don't know. I just work here. I don't know, friends. Anyway, it's 0.02 of an inch of clearance. So when we come over here to our sheet, we are going. I did the other one. So here, plastic gauge. There you go. Our clearance is 100 inch-pounds of torque there. Now, we did it with the plastic gauge, which is kind of funny right here. It's 0.02. This thing is kind of a weird, the way this particular thing is set up. Whatever. Now, we're going to do it the other way now. Now, the other way of doing this is put this cap on, again, the proper way. Torque it down again, 200 inch-pounds again. And this time, you'll see we're leaving out the crankshaft. Like, well, how's that any good? You'll see. So what we're going to do is we're going to take an inside micrometer, hole gauge, and we're going to take an outside mic, and we're going to measure the crankshaft. And we're going to measure the inside of this hole. Now, as you remember, clearance is always the difference between what goes in the hole and how big the hole is. Clearly, if connecting rod, if the crankshaft doesn't go through this hole in the connecting rod, clearly the crankshaft has to be smaller than the hole. That's just how life goes. There's no other way around it. That's how things work. Okay. I don't know what to tell you. If you have a problem with that, maybe, I don't know, kindergarten. Maybe that was addressed in kindergarten. I don't recall. I remember kindergarten. This one girl used to chase me around the playground. I always thought that was weird, but whatever. Okay, there it is. Okay. Now, we are going to find the appropriate sized hole gauge for that. So, I happen to have one right here, I believe, that will do the trick for us. I think. Yes, nicely done, Mr. Groom. Well done, sir. Hoppa! Not bad. Let's pull it out. Now I'm going to need a 1-inch mic for this. I happen to have that sitting right over yonder. Mr. Groom, I can't see. I know, Shauna. I know. I'm sorry. Gosh. Now, here we go. Now, remember, this is the hole. This is the diameter of the hole. So whatever we get here in a minute, then we're going to go measure the crankshaft. Okay, obviously the crankshaft has to be smaller than the hole. I mean, I don't know how I can explain it any better than this, but yeah. There we have it. Come on, get on there. Hold it in place. You can do it, stupid. Darn it. I'm going to do it off camera and just show it to you when I get it. Just a minute. I can't reach over the camera and do this. It's just too hard, man. Okay, looks to be, see what you think about that. Focus, you hippie. Looks to be 800, oh, come on, focus on it. Come on, baby. You got this. We got this. We can do it, friends. All right, so, I don't know. It looks to be 800. There's 50, and then 872, it looks like. 0.872. I'm going to write that down before I forget. I almost wrote with a pencil on my computer. That would have been cute. So, hole diameter, 0.872. 872 thousandths. Now, come over here and measure the oh, you want to see what I'm doing, don't you? You're not missing much. I'm just walking over to the crankshaft now, which is laying here on the table. And looks to be about 870-ish, 870, 871, somewhere in there. So the crankshaft itself, the crankshaft, looks to be about 870, 871-ish, somewhere in that neighborhood. Well, if it was 870, you see we have a 2,000ths gap. If it's 871, we have a 1,000ths gap, okay, which is consistent with our plastic gauge, okay? Now, when you come back over here, right, which do you think is more accurate? The correct answer is, just depends on who's doing the work, okay? If it's me, I don't use a mic on a daily basis to where I feel really 100% comfortable doing measurements with it 100%. I don't, okay? I can do it. I don't feel real comfortable doing it. And because of that, I know that I'm going to be I will end up making mistakes reading that, okay? I've taught this class for 2 years now. I know teenagers make those mistakes, okay? I'm not bagging on you. I'm just saying, man. And so knowing that going in, if I'm doing this in my backyard on an engine that I'm building, like maybe this 318 over here, or, you know, something along those lines, or the average person doing something like this, I prefer the plastic gauge all day, every day. I think it's just as accurate, but it's a lot easier and a lot faster to do, okay? I feel confident that I'm right in there with my mics on this one. But again, it's a lot more time, it's a lot more effort, and I don't have the tools for instance, in my own personal house, I don't have all those tools. I have calipers and I think I have a couple mics, but I don't have inside mics. And so getting that accurate of a measurement is going to be really hard to do. So again, really depends on who's using the tool. If I worked for Hendricks Motorsports in their race team shop, yes, I'm micing that thing all day long. Matter of fact, you will probably see a guy doing those machine shop when they're building the engines in the shop. You'll probably see him spend like 4 hours just doing the clearances, or some ridiculous amount of time, doing all the clearances on all of those main bearings and stuff like I showed in this 318 video. Whereas it took me 20 minutes with plastic gauge. Okay. Again, not building an engine that's going to rev to 9,000 RPMs. Okay, I'm building it for something, it's just going to have some fun with, that sort of thing. So, really kind of depends on what you're doing. Again, this butcher knife will work nicely for, cutting a piece of steak. Not really what you want for operating purposes. Okay, could you cut your steak with a scalpel? Yes. Do I want my doctor cutting into me with a steak knife? Not really. So, it kind of depends on who's using it, what you have available. All right. So that is, I believe, most of what we need to do on sheet 5. Okay, there will be in addition to what's going on in sheet 5, there'll be some other questions that you'll need to answer as well.